So coming into entrepreneurship, with any product that I set out, there's a gap you've identified in the market. So boxers are male-dominated products, right? But I could be a female, or we could have a female that's buying boxers for a boyfriend. I don't need to leave the house to get my drinks. The difference between whiskey spelled with an E and whiskey spelled without an E, as an example. The different regions where products come from, right? What's the difference between mezcal and tequila? Hi, how are you? My name is Antony Owich. I am the proprietor behind Front Door and Bar Next Door. And welcome to this episode of Hustle Zetu. I am 34 years old. I feel really old right now. So 34-year-old, I'm an entrepreneur, but gone through the corporate ladder until I decided to become an entrepreneur. So my recent venture is called Front Door. The venture that I'm known for is Bar Next Door. So we're working on Front Door now, amongst other things in the future. So that's what I'm a young and aspiring entrepreneur. Okay. Right. So I basically grew up in Nairobi. Middle class, I'd say lower middle class family, where every day was trying to make ends meet. Had very hardworking parents. So with that, there was the discipline of working hard for your money. You got to make every day count. And I remember even at some point, if you oversleep, my dad would come and say, you people are millionaires because you're sleeping the whole day. So there's that discipline, hard work that was still early on. Went to Donholm Primary. After that, I went to Aquinas High School, Nairobi University for my uni. Then after that, I went to USIU for my MBA, but that was later on. But went through uni here, was able to get my first job here, I think working for a local bank. That was the formal job. Before that, I had informal jobs. Yeah. So that was a formal job, and then it's been a blessing from that. Yeah. My first ever business, I was in high school, and I realized there was ball gums, right? So I'd go to a wholesaler, buy the ball gums for, the pack was 35 shillings. Inside the pack, there were 100 ball gums, right? So if I sell each ball gum at 1 shilling each, I get 100 ball, right? So I'd buy it at 35. Every day as I'm going to school, I stop by the wholesaler, I buy it at 35 bob, I'd buy like 2, he gives me a discount, a further discount, and then I keep them in my desk. So guys along the stream knew if at any point within the day I need to chew gum, I go to Antony, right? And then it got to a point now everyone started doing ball gums, and I was like, no. So I started diversifying those lollipops, there's other things. So within the stream, there was just other people doing other stuff. And for me, it was just to be able to get that extra income, to be able maybe to, I don't know, shop, maybe just be comfortable over the weekend. Yeah. So that's where it started. So B&D, basically, I remember when it started, I always felt like there were certain establishments. I have to overly dress up. I have to like literally go above and beyond. It has to be end month. I have to be right in the pocket, you understand, for me to go there. Yeah. Then there are others. I feel like if I go there now, it's too, let me use the term, not kenyeji, but you go there, I've sort of dressed up, even not if it's not too much, but there's someone there, I'm drinking, but there's someone with slippers. Okay. Right? Yeah. So with that one, I just felt like there was no middle ground. Yeah. So B&D, you have someone that comes there every day and feels comfortable, right? They can drink there every day, they can have time there every day, and it's about the experience. There's someone who's come from work, wants a drink before he goes home. Yeah. There's someone who's come there for a meeting, close the meeting, wants to celebrate. There's someone who's come there for a date, they're cheersing, right? They'll dress up, you understand? There's someone who come there, maybe they're washing their car outside, they want to pass an hour, they'll sit there. There's someone who just had a long week, wants to listen to good music and have a good time and vibe, right? So all these things, and for me, I look at it as we've created a space to let Kenyans more so have a good time and experience. And at that time, I think we opened at the heart of COVID, right? And even with that, a lot of bars were enclosed, right? Yeah. They were in, let's say, houses or something like that. By enclosed, they were not outdoors, right? So when we set up our first one, it was an outdoor bar, right? So that people wanted social distancing. Okay, we're together, but there's air. So that's what I think led to a bit of the success at that particular point. So it's very interesting you say that, because even as it is now, there's a couple of projects I'm trying to visualize, and with that it touches on exactly what you're trying to say. What new experience will you bring to Nairobi, right? From a musical point of view, experience from a food point of view, what cocktails would you serve that are different, right? In terms of seating, what could be different? And this touches back into what I was telling you in terms of when you scope out the entire Nairobi market, what gaps are there, right? In terms of nightclubs, you have cafes, we have normal bars, we have lounges and all these things. So whatever category you're going to fit in, how's your product going to be different, right? What's the unique product offering that you have? Is it cocktails that are out of this world? Is it food that is out of this world? Is it staff members that are really, really polite and nice and engaging to customers that everyone recommends, go over there? The clients, the waiting staff and the staff in general there are amazing, right? Is it the best location possible? Is it that you've worked on the most soundproof location possible? It's a lot of these elements that we're working on, and I think becomes an element of creating a space that Kenyans or Nairobians will accept. Honestly, I wouldn't change anything. I think, I've traveled quite a bit, and with everywhere I go, be it within the region, Uganda, be it globally or anything like that, I feel there's that element of human beings wanting to let loose, have a good time, right? And it could be based off of a lot of things that they're going through, right? And Nairobians are no exception. I think they also look for spaces where they can have a good time, whether it's on a midweek, whether it's on a weekend, right? And for me, the key thing there is just how do we create a sustainable sort of like ecosystem for Nairobians to enjoy themselves. I think when you look at B&D, the reason why it stands out, I won't lie to you, B&D has a soul, right? And having that soul is very intentional. When we say good vibes guaranteed, you can walk in there and you feel there's a sort of energy, whether you're watching a football game, whether you're listening to a DJ, whether you're eating, right? You can say it has a soul. And with that, it's very, there's a term called, it's very non-pretentious, right? So we're not going to tell you, oh, because you're not buying this, you can't sit somewhere. It's anyone can be able to come within the space and mix. You can have a CEO coming and having a bottle of wine, right? You can have an entry-level employee coming having a beer. And all these people are comfortable. We don't have demarcated spaces where you say, that is VIP, this is regular, as an example. It's we can all mix within one space, and that's how I look at society. I think in any industry, someone will always say it's saturated, right? When you look at telecom, I mean, for the longest time, guys were saying Safaricom's enjoying, but now you see there's other players coming in and it's becoming a bit shaky. When you look at real estate, the amount of apartment buildings you can see, there are so many, but there's a new apartment building that will come that will offer different amenities, spa, swimming pool, etc. So even us with the alcohol business, let me first start with alcohol. There's different alcohol ranges, right? From wine, Prosecco, whiskey, etc. So I use data to make decisions. So even now, there's certain products that were the fastest moving 10 years ago. Now they're barely scratching the surface. So how do you flow in terms of consumer trends, data to make decisions, right? So an example of that is 10 years ago, a lot of people used to drink vodka. It was the number one moving product. Right now, you find whiskey and tequila are over-indexing. Why is that, right? So even with us, when it comes to making decisions, if I was to set up a product in this country, the easiest sell would be to bring in a whiskey or to bring in a tequila. Because at least on that one, when it comes to numbers globally and even locally, people are already drinking those. So it's easier as opposed to me bringing a new vodka that I'm trying to introduce to the market and try to get market share. In layman form, that term that you refer to is called money laundering, right? So fortunately, with all my corporate levels of working, gone through my anti-money laundering training, so I can be able to see and be able to even deflect certain individuals from the beginning. You understand? Because even with people in my business, you interact with a lot of people, and people come from different backgrounds. So it becomes very hard to sort of like understand the reason why certain people are interacting with you. But we do have policies as a business on being able to identify possibilities of money laundering happening, right? Identify, being able to, I think, draw a red flag at any particular level, right? And like any other business, we have audited accounts, right? We have internal auditors, we have external auditors. So everything has to go through the proper checks and balances. I think it becomes a bad reputation for the industry, but there are industry players locally and globally that are reputable, have been able to create groups of companies that become even listed companies in stock markets. So that also becomes an opportunity. Let's say, for example, BND does grow to a certain level and we need capital, and it gets to a point where the capital comes from the general public. You go list yourself on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, you put your audited accounts, and we run. So I think when looking for expansion, I think in any of my businesses, it's data driven, right? So where's a lot of the consumption happening? So even if you say you're going to open a new establishment, you look at the areas within Nairobi or within Kenya where consumption is high, right? If you're looking at something like Fronto and looking at creating a new delivery point, you're looking at where are your customers calling from. Let's say, for example, if I get a lot of demand from Syokimau, and from where our warehouse is to Syokimau takes a long time, my next action point becomes I can open a warehouse in Syokimau so that I can shorten the distance for delivery from my warehouse to the customer. So I'd say location becomes key, current trends becomes key, and also what sort of like customers are looking for at that particular point. I think it ranges, to be honest. I think it ranges from the size of your bar or the size of your business. It ranges. It could range all the way from 100, and it could range all the way, like when I say, it could, even less. It could range all the way from 50,000, it could range all the way to certain millions, right, within a weekend. But there's expenses, right? So there's a bar that's in a very small neighborhood, right? Could be a wine store, a liquor store, and then could be what we call mega bars. So the range between those two is quite diverse, quite big. But you find the running costs of the mega bar are significantly greater than the running cost of this small one, right? The small one can have one employee that just needs to be there, do the stock take and everything like that, one person. The mega bar could have even 3 people doing stock take, right? Barman, you're looking at 10 people as an example. So you notice on this other side, your overheads are significantly higher, right? So in response to your question, it becomes how do you control the cost at whatever level of business you're doing, whether it's a small liquor store or whether it's a large mega bar. And then in that sense, you can be able to see what you remain with at the end of the day. But like any business, it does have its challenges. If managed well and run well, it can be lucrative. With all companies I've worked for before, it's identifying a gap in the market, right? A gap that you can fill. And from identifying that gap is also noticing that will my product fit that gap? Will the price be right? Will I be selling it in the right places, amongst other things, right? So what I learned at Tuborg is at that point, when you think about beers, it's saturated. You have a lot of beer products, so consumers are spoiled for choice. So how do you bring a new beer that you think is going to disrupt the market, right? So Tuborg at that point had connection to music, right? So the target market was a younger consumer. One of the competitive advantages there was you don't need to return the bottle. So even from a business perspective, Me as a storekeeper, well, I'm thinking that you need to collect this, send it back, whatever, they're disposable, right? Another thing is that you didn't need an opener. You could just open it with your finger. So that was literally a product that was well thought out, could have fit the market and would have run. So coming into entrepreneurship with any product that I set out, be it Fronto, be it any other one, there's a gap you've identified in the market. There's certain delivery companies in the market, but do they deliver within minutes? Probably not. Do they have a wide range of products that they can offer? From wine, beers, lager, cognac, etc.? Probably not, right? Do they offer value to the consumer? So if you go to our page now, you'll be able to see, let's say, top 5 cocktails of November, right? How to make a margarita at home, right? The difference between whiskey spelled with an E and whiskey spelled without an E, as an example. The different regions where products come from, right? What's the difference between mezcal and tequila? They both come from Mexico. So there's also value that we create to consumers. So these become elements that we've identified the market's not doing, and we can be able to see a gap that we're filling, amongst other things.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, Fronto is strictly, so the tagline is Cheers Delivered. So by Cheers Delivered is we bring an experience to you, right? So by an experience could be beverages, right? At affordable, good prices, right? We deliver in minutes. We have well-trained riders that are well-groomed and can be able to deliver any products anywhere within Nairobi in a matter of minutes, right? One of the things that we have a dedicated team, we call them the customer support team, that you can be able to call in terms of any queries or anything like that. They'll be able to guide you, or even if you want to place an order via calling, they can be able to support you. There's the educational bit where we have conversations and keep a relationship with our consumers in terms of, if they call us, they say, okay, I usually drink this white wine. Which other white wines can you recommend? Or which other grapes can you recommend? So there's an element of educating our consumers, which becomes also very critical. Part of our delivery process, which also ties back to sustainability. A big conversation around the world is sustainability, climate change, etc. So even as much as it's small on our part, all our deliveries are done using electric motorbikes. So we don't use anything, we don't use fuel, it's all electric motorbikes. So we recharge the batteries, and we've partnered with local companies to do that. So that becomes us playing our part when it comes to that. Eco-friendly packaging, amongst other things. So I think those would be the main thing that would set Fronto apart from competition. Ooh, the last one, we offer events. So let's say you call me today, or you text us, or you go to the website and you tell us, I have an event of X amount of people. This is my order. We'll give you a complimentary bar, mobile bar, come set up. We'll give you a barman, and we'll create cocktails and a bar experience for you on that day. Whether it's a housewarming event, whether it's a Rorashio, whether it's a corporate event, anything that we can be able to film. So digital transformation becomes key, and with any industry, including ours. So I'd say I'm in the beverage industry or fast-moving consumer goods industry. So the traditional format of this business is a liquor store, right? Or a warehouse. That becomes the traditional format. But for years, even the way you used to interact with your mobile phone to today, that has changed. So even with the liquor business, right? How does that change? How do we move consumers from having to leave your house, dress up, get into your car, get into your motorcycle, go to a liquor store, go to a wholesaler, go to a supermarket, and shift that mindset to making sure you get your products, whether it's alcoholic, non-alcoholic, snacks, or other products within your house. So that can be done through social media, where you reach out to us. That can be done through WhatsApp, or that could be done directly through our website, which has also integrated certain artificial intelligence models. So let's say, for example, you pick a product and you're checking out. We can also recommend other associated products that we think you can be able to get along with that. And the shift with that is in a supermarket. Let's say you walk into a supermarket, you pick a bottle of wine and you're going to the counter. As you're going to the counter, you'll notice there's that shelf. right? That usually has chewing gums, a lot of things, candy bars, whatever. That shelf has been placed there intentionally because as you're picking it, as you're going out and paying, you're like, I do need chewing gum. I do need a bar of chocolate, for example. So it's the same thing with us, but that process has been made into a digital format or an online sort of format. So we've started with a website as our minimum viable product to test out the market. The next stage becomes maybe an app, if need be. Yes. So I think when you look at the online delivery business and the in-bar experience or the in-bar business, they're both sort of like, they can work hand in hand, right? Because the person that's ordering in most cases, you find does not want to go out, right? The person that's going out is going out because it's maybe a bond and connect moment, a meeting with the boys. We want to listen to music, right? We want to interact. I want to go on a date. So that involves me going out. So the motivators for these two sets of individuals, two sets of businesses are different, right? They're very different. So that becomes the number one unique thing. The pricing for both sets of businesses are also different. So someone that's going to drink in the house, let's say I decide to drink in the house this weekend, right? Maybe it's mid-month. I don't want to expend so much money, transport, dressing up and new clothes, going out and things like that. I just want to be able to control my variables, have my few beers, so I have a set budget. But end month, I can decide salary has come in, I want to go and celebrate with the boys, we're going out. So I feel like the two businesses are they have synergies, but they're very different and they have very different motivators. A lot, like directly and indirectly. So directly, I'd say within the office, I think we're over 10 people, right? Indirectly, there are people that we work with. So there's suppliers, right? There is support group for maybe internet. There is support group for our call center. There is data analysts that we use externally. And all these becomes part of the ecosystem. So it's, my main thing becomes you set up an establishment or you set up a business, right? For empowering people. So whether it's directly or indirectly, they get value from you. Either they learn from you, either they get value from your service, or they get value from interacting with your business. Let me tell you a thing. There's a day we had a Thanksgiving ceremony for both branches, and we decided to have it at Kiambu Road. So we hired a tent. So they were planning, me, I knew there was Thanksgiving, so I let the staff plan it. I was coming as a guest. And I got there, and I remember when I was walking in, I asked one of my GMs, who are all these people? He's like, these are your staff members. There's a difference between seeing them on Excel sheets, right? And then seeing them there. These are humans. These are people that have families, right? These are people that wake up in the morning to come to work, right? And these are people that are looking for inspiration. These are people that are looking to become better people, right? Some of them are in school. Some of them are parents, you understand? And these are people that work for you. So engaging with them, being able to give thanks with all these people was very inspiring. And to answer your question, I think I have around, cutting across all my businesses, I think maybe over 300 employees. But it does come with pressure. You know, I was telling someone told me sometimes, it's a privilege being able to wake up and knowing there's 300 people depending on me. And I think that's one of the things that keeps me going. And you can imagine anyone in a leadership position, you have way more people. Culture is a phenomenon that came with social media, right? And I think it's very impactful. You can see the returns almost immediately, right? But tying that to a sale becomes also very challenging, right? Because there's one thing, identifying influencers. You as the company, you need to tie influencers the pillars of this influencer that you're looking at with the pillars of your company. There needs to be a synergy there. But the biggest challenge is, let's say we have a collaboration with a certain influencer and we run a campaign, right? Let's say Cheers delivered for Christmas with Front Door, and we've identified 3 influencers. Being able to say the amount of people that have seen a post, the amount of people that have seen an SMS campaign, the amount of people that have seen a digital marketing campaign as an example, is so hard to tie it back to the sales and say this increase in sales is directly correlated to that influencer campaign. That's the biggest challenge. But in terms of creating awareness, I think it's critical in terms of using certain influencers to communicate that I don't need to leave the house to get my drinks. You know, that becomes important, creating awareness. But creating the correlation between the influencer and impact to sales directly is a bit of a gray area. So I think at the core of any brand, they have their target audience. So let's say it's a male-dominated product or targeted product, right? That becomes maybe 55% of their target audience. There's still what we call a consumption pool. Consumption pool becomes still that consumer that you're trying to target, but not directly, right? They'll still consume your products. So with that consumption pool, for even a male-dominated product, you can find females there. Let me give you an example of boxers, right? So boxers are male-dominated products, right? But I could be a female, or we could have a female that's buying boxers for her boyfriend, for her brother, for her family member, etc. So you still have that influence coming from that female perspective in terms of, she could run a campaign that says, top 5 gifts to get your boyfriend. And from that top 5 gifts to gift your boyfriend, there's boxers there, right? So I think it's an element of creating a balance. I think both sets of influencers, if you look at male and female, both have their impact in terms of leading to awareness of a brand, leading to sales of a brand. Right. So I think within a business we set targets, right? And those targets might be achievable, they might not be achievable. In most cases we do set targets that are achievable, but there are things that happen within periods that might be within your control, that might not be within your control, right? So with that, it's how do you sort of pivot? Let's say if we have targets set for this month and we don't reach them, how do we over-index next month and make sure that we recover at least a bit of it? But if there are elements within the economy or within the macro that we can't control, we also have sort of measures in place to make sure that we can be able to sustain the business. Oh, that becomes hard. So, you know, there's 2 people that go to clubs. There's people that go to enjoy, and there's people that go for business. So if you're going to invest in a club, my number 1 advice would be, you better know your stuff, right? So a lot of people get in any business, right? The amount of mistakes you will make, and this becomes normal. The amount of mistakes that you'll make are so many, right? That one, you'd rather have a partner that understands the business fully to help you avoid the mistakes. If you're going to partner with someone that complements you. We all have gaps. There are certain gaps I have, right? Certain gaps other people have. So identify personnel that will fill your gaps, and then you guys sort of like fill each other's gap, and it becomes a whole working team, right? Have structures in place, right? Have targets. Have ways of working, have policies, right? No matter how small or big the business is, right? And the number 1 thing is, if you think you can do it, do it. But don't just wake up and say, I'm going to open a bar. For me, it took a lot of quote-unquote learning from people. And in my previous job, I used to manage a lot of bars in Nairobi. So I'd sit with the successful bar owners, borrow how they work every day, borrow how they treat their staff, borrow how they pay attention to details. And for me, even till today, there's a lot of things I'm learning from hotel owners, because from running a bar, what's the next step? It becomes possibly running a hotel, right? Running a chain of bars, running a chain of bars within the region, running a chain of bars in Africa. That becomes now how you grow. So there are people that are already doing that. But in that level, there's new challenges.
Yeah.
So how do you learn from all those people?
Nice.